The second dream that Jacob had, when he was working for Laban, at a point, he consulted the spirit medium. He consulted the Sangoma, and he wanted to find out on how he can prosper his company, he can prosper his business. And Bible says that for 10 times, Laban changed the wages of Jacob. For 10 times, he told him that I'm going to give you X amount as your salary, as your wages. But when it got to that point, he kept on changing the salary. He kept on changing the wages. Until one day, he told him that the speckled goats will be your wages. If the goats are going to give birth to the speckled, to the ones with spots, those are going to be your wages. One day he took his sheep to the water, to the stream where they were going to drink water. Whilst he was there, the Bible says he took a tree and he painted the stripes. And as the sheep and the goats were drinking water, they were looking at that tree which was painted. The Bible says, whilst they were looking at those stripes which he had painted, Jacob just fell asleep. And whilst he fell asleep looking at the gods, he had a dream. In this dream, he saw an angel. And the angel of the Lord spoke to him and said, Jacob, I want you to lift up your eyes and look at these male gods that are coming to meet with the female gods that were drinking water. It was as a result of that dream that all the gods, they began to give birth to the goats and the sheep that were speckled, that had spots. And that's what made Jacob rich. He became richer than his boss as a result of the dream that he experienced. So if you are to look at the life of Jacob, it was from one dream to another. And he became successful by the reason of the dreams that he participated into. And he understood the communications of the Spirit through dreams. I'll also give you the second example. The example of Joseph. We all know Joseph as the dreamer. He had a dream. In this dream, he was sharing with his brothers. And he said, I had a dream where I saw stars that were bowing to me. And I also saw the moon and the sun bowing down to me. And the father interpreted to him and said, do you mean that we are going to worship you? We are going to bow down before you. So the dream that Joseph saw was talking about the greatness connected to his destiny, how he was going to become the prime minister. We see this dream coming into manifestation many years later when he was now in a nation called Egypt. And one day, Joseph was promoted to become the prime minister of Egypt as a result of the dream that he saw. Everything that he saw in that dream came to pass, including his brothers bowing down before him. You see him that even as he was now arrested, whilst he was in Egypt, he got to a point where he got arrested. Whilst he was arrested in the prison cell, the Bible says there were two guys that had dreams same night. The one was a butler and one was a baker. These guys were working for Pharaoh. They were officials from the Pharaoh's courts. And they came with their dreams to Joseph. Joseph interpreted their dreams. And he told the butler that Pharaoh is going to restore you. He told the baker that you are going to be killed. According to his dream, 3 days later, the butler was restored according to his dream, and the baker was hanged according to his dream. I'm just trying to give you some of the examples of people that had dreams. Remember Pharaoh himself, who was not even a believer. He was not even a church goer. He had a dream, a powerful dream, where he saw 7 lean cows coming out of the water. And those 7 lean cows, they ate 7 fat cows that were by the seashore. And what disturbed Pharaoh was the fact that after those 7 cows, lean cows, he had eaten the 7 fat cows, they did not change in stature, they did not change in their physicality, they still remained thin. And Pharaoh got up from that dream. He was troubled. He looked for the magicians, he looked for people who can interpret, and no one could interpret that dream. That's when it was 2 years later, after the interpretation of the butler's dream, that Joseph did in the prison. It was that day that the butler remembered. He went before the king and he said, the Lord has reminded me of the sin that I've committed. 2 years ago, there is a man I met in the prison, a young Hebrew who interpreted the dream that I had, and everything came to pass according to his interpretation. And Pharaoh said, bring him here. We see a young boy from the prison who was brought before the Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said, I have a dream which no one could interpret. And Joseph said, doesn't interpretation come from the Lord? Tell me your dream, O King Pharaoh. And Pharaoh narrated his dream. And Joseph interpreted the dream. And he told him that the 7 lean cows that you saw, they are representing 7 years. And 7 years, there's going to be 7 years of harvest. 7 years of plenty. That is represented by the 7 fat cows that you saw. But after 7 years of plenty, there's going to be 7 years of famine, 7 years of drought. And the 7 years of drought that is going to come is going to destroy everything, that people will even forget the 7 years of plenty. And he said, this is the solution, king. You need to look for a man whom has the Spirit of God, who can begin to set out a national program of reserves, where he's going to reserve, where they are going to build some storehouses, where we are going to collect and save all the maize, so that in the time of famine, you will begin to be a distributor, you will begin to sell. And it was from that interpretation that Pharaoh said, where can we find anyone with the Spirit of God like you? Right away, a prison boy, someone who's coming from the cell, right on spot, he was created, a position was created. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, only in terms of the throne will I be greater than you. But right now, I put you in charge of the whole of Egypt. Can you imagine that through a dream interpretation, someone came from a prison to become the prime minister of a nation? There was no, in their organogram, in their structure, in their governmental structure of Egypt, there was no a position of a prime minister. But because of understanding of dream, it was created right away. Child of God. So you can see that if he had ignored his dreams, he was probably going to rot in prison. Some of you, your prison today could be the pain you are going through. Some of you, your prison today, you could be your financial crisis that you are going through. Some of you, it could be your marital crisis that you are going through. Some of you, you don't know which direction you should take. Yet God has been speaking to you through dreams. He's been showing you the next stage. He's been revealing to you the next move you should take. But because you are ignoring dreams, probably that's why you are still going through what you are going through. Not only that, we look at Solomon. Remember, Solomon was anointed to become a king, the king of Israel, yet he was still a young boy. The Bible says he went to the mountain. When he went to the mountain, he sacrificed 1,000 bulls before the Lord, and he began to pray for an encounter. When he slept in the night, God spoke to him, visited him, and he said, Solomon, I am pleased with what you have done. What can I do for you? Ask me anything. He was given an open check, a blank check. He said, ask me anything that I can do for you. And he said, oh Lord, knowing that I'm just a young boy, I don't know how to go out and I don't know how to come in. You have given me a huge responsibility to be a leader over your people. I don't know how to discern matters. I don't know how to judge the hearts of men. He said, give your servant, give your boy wisdom. Give your boy understanding on how to discern the matters, how to judge the issues of your people. And God said, wow, after I've given you such an opportunity to ask me of anything, you didn't ask that you want to become a billionaire. You didn't ask that you want to avenge your enemies. He said, because of what you've asked, I'm going to grant it to you. I'm going to give you wisdom. There's no one on earth who have wisdom like you. And on top of wisdom, I'm going to give you wealth. I'm going to give you success. There shall never be any president or any king, both the living and those that are dead, that will be compared to you. And the Bible says he woke up in the morning only to realize that it was a dream. It was from that dream that we speak today, and we refer to Solomon as the wisest man that has ever lived, that has ever walked on the sands of time. Why? Because he had an encounter through a dream. I can continue to give you example upon example of people that experience dreams in the Bible that change their destinies.